Simo Häyhä has been dubbed the deadliest sniper in history, with at least 505 documented kills during the Winter War of 1939-40 between Finland and the Soviet Union. According to American research, during the First World War, an average of 7,000 rifle-caliber rounds were required to produce one combat kill. This figure had risen to over 25,000 during the Vietnam War. More than 13,550,000 bullets would have been required in Vietnam for Simo Häyhä's more than 505 kills. He is still the deadliest sharpshooter in history. Simo Häyhä was born on December 17, 1905 in the hamlet of Kiiskinen, Rautjärvi municipality to Juho and Katriina Häyhä. This region was part of the former Finnish province of Karelia, which is now part of Russian territory. He worked as a farmer and had a variety of interests, including snow skiing, hunting, and shooting. Häyhä fought for Finland against the Soviet Union during the so-called Winter War, which took place in the winter of 1939-40. He was 33 years old when the Winter War broke out, and he celebrated his 34th birthday on Kolla battlefield on December 17, 1939. With the 6th Battalion Infantry, Regiment 34, he spent a total of 98 days. Simo Häyhä was wounded and hospitalized during the final week of the war. Despite the fact that it lasted just 105 days, Häyhä was unseen and unheard during his 98-day reign of terror. But he was executing Russian soldiers with deadly precision, once killing 25 men in one day. Because snipers are such valuable targets on the battlefield, Simo's reputation as a marksman quickly spread to the Russian front lines, which he was dubbed the White Death. After Häyhä killed an enemy sniper with a single shot on another occasion, the Russians attempted to kill him by firing indirect fire, a mortar bombardment near his firing position. Häyhä miraculously avoided being hurt or killed, survived the ordeal without a scratch. Häyhä escaped with only a minor scratch to his back when an artillery shell landed near his shooting position and tore apart the back of his greatcoat. Despite spending so much time on the front lines, Häyhä claimed that he was never afraid. He viewed his job as if it were hunting, and he was constantly thinking of new tactics to stay hidden and deceive the opponents. He used ingenious methods, such as putting water into the snow in front of him to prevent the muzzle blast from revealing his location by disrupting the light snow. He also mastered the use of noise, smoke, and artillery bombardment to conceal his movements when switching locations. Häyhä depended on his memory to discover the ideal hiding spots because maps were sparse during the conflict. Häyhä's skill was bolstered by his meticulous shooting preparations. He would frequently visit his favorite firing positions late at night, making whatever preparations and improvements he deemed were necessary. Because of his attention to the job at hand, his behavior could be regarded as obsessive. He would clean his weapon considerably more frequently than most soldiers, and complete both maintenance procedures before and after completing a mission. Once, Häyhä demonstrated how he shot from a covered foxhole. The key things to note were how he put on his gloves. They are utilized to minimize the weapon's jolt, to provide the finest possible position. The supporting hand had to be behind the trigger guard. To minimize jamming, good gun maintenance was critical, especially in the -20°C cold of the Finnish winter. His weapon was an M2830, which he had prior to the war and didn't even have a telescopic sight. In the late 1930s, this rifle was the standard-issue rifle for Finnish infantry, and Häyhä valued the model's dependability and consistency of fire. It was a simple weapon, but one that he had honed through years of practice. His weapon's sights were zeroed, adjusted at 150 meters, the most typical fighting distance at the time, allowing him to quickly change to the proper setting as needed. One bizarre legend about snipers is that they would fire the enemy from trees. When asked about this, Häyhä would laugh. It would be far more difficult to maintain a steady aim at the opponent, and if he was ever discovered, he would have no way of escaping. Häyhä, on the other hand, hid under overhanging branches, which gave superior protection and allowed him to maintain a steady shot. Häyhä's abilities were honed during his childhood, which he spent immersed in nature, embarking on regular hunting trips into the woods, in clearings and pine forests. He had often chased shy birds that reacted to even the tiniest sound, reflection, or unexpected movement. Häyhä would have needed keen vision and the capacity to locate and recognize targets as a hunter, when everything relies on the situation, target, and terrain, because each situation and condition is different. There are no foolproof tactics in hunting. Häyhä understood that when a hunter fires a shot at a target, he must be able to see the impact, because any game will try to flee if the initial shot is not lethal, until the wildlife is rendered immobile. Any animal will try to protect itself until it is dead or unable to move. Humans on the battlefield are no exception. Häyhä's hunting skills taught him how to read and use the landscape, and he was the undisputed king of using the battlefield environment to his advantage. Häyhä's father had also taught him a crucial hunter's skill, the ability to assess distances. This was not a natural ability for him. He had to practice gauging the distance to a destination and then pacing out in steps. When comparing his estimates to the actual distance, a typical deviation from the actual distance was 1 or 2 steps in either direction. For distances of about 150 meters, he also learned to evaluate the impacts of wind and rain on shooting, and forest conditions as a young man. For many years, sniper Simo Häyhä endured permanent facial scarring and near-constant pain after being wounded by an explosive bullet during a Russian strike. Simo was a nightmare for Soviet troops in Finland's winter forests until he was wounded on March 6, 1940. In the forests of Ulisma in the Kola region, thanks to his unusual personality and a lifetime of preparation, during a Russian onslaught he was injured by an explosive bullet and fell into a coma, from which he would not awaken for another week, by which time the ceasefire had already been signed. Häyhä suffered from long-term face scars and near-constant discomfort as a result of his injury. Häyhä returned to his property after the war ended. In Finland, his combat heroics were legendary, and he became a celebrity, yet he liked to be alone. Simo chatted more with animals in the forest than with other people, claimed Kalevi Ikonen, a friend of Häyhä's. However, given that he had 26 medical surgeries on his jaw and his speech was never entirely recovered, it's easy to understand why he didn't want to engage with others more than was absolutely required. He lived alone until 2001, when he moved into the Kaimi Institute for Disabled Veterans. He died in 2002 at the age of 96. Because he comprehended everything that was going on around him, Simo Häyhä was the most successful sharpshooter in history. He was an expert hunter and trekker who knew how to keep inconspicuous with his willingness to be alone and ability to avoid the emotions that many would associate with such a job. His gun was one he had used for years and knew exactly how it would react in its environment. His personality was also ideally suited to sniping. With his willingness to be alone and ability to avoid the emotions that many would associate with such a job, he was born to hunt. Despite his little stature, and sniping was a natural fit for him. He was always eager to remind of his most useful insight during many discussions with him in the twilight of his life. War isn't fun, he admitted, but who else would preserve our place unless we're willing to do it ourselves? During World War II, Fyodor Matveevich Oklopkov was a Soviet sniper who was credited with 429 kills. After being nominated for the title of Hero of the Soviet Union in 1944 after racking up his first 420 sniper kills, but being denied for unknown reasons, he was finally awarded the title in May 1965, nearly 2 decades later on Victory Day. That's all for today. We hope you have loved to know about such a brave legend. If so, then do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon to get the notification of upcoming amazing content. Hope to see you in good health. Goodbye.